Okay, today's topic is on leasing a vehicle. We've already talked about renting a vehicle. We talked about buying new or used. We talked about car insurance. We talked about a lot of stuff. One option that we haven't talked about yet that a lot of people do end up doing is leasing a vehicle. So what a lease is it's an agreement for the use of a vehicle on an annual basis. You get a new lease every year, or maybe you have some sort of different contract with your lease. But essentially, you don't own the car itself. You are simply essentially borrowing it. It's kind of like a long-term, more permanent renting of a car. The other term you do need to know is if at the end of your lease you do end up wanting to buy the car and actually have ownership of it, you would need to know the car's residual value, the expected value of a car at the end of a lease period. So what we're going to talk about today, what we're going to first talk about is how to calculate how much money you're going to be putting in over the course of the lease. And we're also at the end going to talk about in what situations might it be appropriate to buy a car as opposed to just lease a car. Okay, and that's going to that's going to vary person to person. That's going to vary, situation to situation. When we talk about the total lease cost, there's a bunch of different things that you're going to have to consider. Obviously, a lease, since usually they're tabulated in months, one of the factors that goes into this is how big the lease payments are and how many payments you have to make. In other words, how many months you're leasing it for. So the number of payments, let's say, for instance, 12 months, 12 payments, times the amount of the payment is what probably the biggest part of the lease cost. But there's also probably going to be a deposit, there will be a title fee, a license fee, and there might even be a mileage charge depending on how many miles you put on it. At the end of your lease, if you want to buy it, you don't have to. You could just go get another lease or go buy a different car. If you want to buy the car you've been leasing, at the end of your lease period, the total lease cost plus the what's called residual value, the value of the car at the end of the lease period, would be how to calculate the total cost of buying. Remember, cars' values go down as they age. All right, so let's see how this works. Number one, Ralph Dunn leased a pickup truck for use in his lawn care business. He pays $199 per month for 60 months. His deposit was $2,500. He paid an $80 title fee and a $45 license fee. What is his total lease cost? Okay, so let's see what they're giving us here. He pays $199 per month. That's the amount of his monthly payment for 60 months. So that takes care of this part right here. And I would kind of recommend, always remember that if you have something like this, you kind of have to do this part first if there's multiplication or division involved. So I'm going to put parentheses around that because that part should be done first. Okay, the number of payments times the amount of the payment, then you can go and add everything else. He had a $2,500 deposit. He had an $80 title fee, $45 license fee. Doesn't say anything about a mileage charge, so this should be pretty straightforward, okay, if we try to find his total lease cost. So first, let's do the number of payments times the amount of the payment. The number of payments was 60. So 60, oops, that's not plus, times $199. Okay, and that is $11,940. That's the cost of the payments time, that's the cost for the monthly payment times how many months he paid for. All right, now we just need to add the deposit, title fee, and license fee. Deposit was $2,500, the title fee was $80, and the license fee was $45. We add all that together, and we come up with a total lease cost of $14,565. That's how much the lease has cost him over the 60 months. So we're going to box that in. I'm just going to say what everything else is. This is the number of payments, and then this is the monthly payment. Monthly payment right there, and this is right there. Here's the deposit. Here's the title fee and the license fee. Okay. So once again, the equation is very simple to use. You just have to pay attention to what the numbers are that they tell you. All right, number two, a little bit more complex. You leased a Ford F-250 for 24 months at $269 per month. Your deposit was $1,500 down. The title fee was $60. and the license fee was $75. Your mileage allowance was 12,000 miles per year with a 0.25 cent so $0.25 or so basically 25 cents charge for all miles over. You turned in the truck at the end of 2 years with 31,450 miles. First, what was your mileage charge? Then, what is the total lease cost? So let's worry about the mileage charge first. Let's go back to the mileage. Your mileage allowance was 12,000 miles per year with a 25-cent charge for all miles over. So what's the maximum number of miles you can drive without getting this charge? Well, if your allowance in miles is $12,000 miles per year, you drove the car for 2 years. We need to do 12,000 times 2, and that would be 24,000. Oop, that's not it. Okay. Mileage allowance, years, and then you get 24,000 miles. That's the maximum you could have driven in 2 years without incurring a fee. However, you drove it for 31,450 miles. So how many miles over the limit are you? The limit's 24,000. You drove it for 31,450. So you are, this is you. You are 7,450 miles over. And since you're that many miles over, we need to figure out, well, how much of a charge is that? 7,450 miles times the 0.25 mileage charge means you're paying a mileage fee of $1,862.50. Now, finally, we'll find the total lease cost, because now we know the mileage charge. The rest of it is just like the problem above. All right, so let's do the number of payments and the monthly payment to figure out the base cost. Number of payments was 24, because there's 24 months, and your monthly payment was $269. So we're going to multiply those together, and you get $6,456. Finally, we add that together. We add that to the deposit, which was $1,500. We add that to the title fee. Or no, let's do the mileage charge first. I'll just label it MC. I'm just going to make this a little more clear. This is the charge per mile. This is the mileage charge. All right, so we've got the mileage charge, we've got the deposit, we just need the title fee and the license fee. Title fee was $60, license fee was $75. We add all this up. And we should get a total lease cost of $9,953.50. Total lease cost. Okay, so it is a bit of work, but it's fairly straightforward stuff. Let's do one more. Tashira Conley leased a minivan for family use. She pays $229 per month for 39 months. Her deposit was $1,000. She paid a $57.50 title fee and a $48.50 license fee. The residual value at the end of the lease will be $7,500. What's her total lease cost? What is the total cost if they buy the minivan? So again, no mileage charge here, so like number one. So we can get right into looking at the monthly payment times the number of payments. So the number of payments was 39, so about 3¼ years, times the monthly payment. of $229 per month. And we get that that is $8,931. We're going to add to that the deposit of $1,000 plus the title fee of $57.50 plus the license fee. And that license fee is $48.50. We add all that together and we get a total lease cost of check this here. 10,000. To this point in the lease, the car has cost her $10,037 is the total lease cost. What if she wants to buy it now? Okay, what if she wants to buy it? Well, in order to buy it, she has to pay off the residual value of the minivan. So all we do is we take the total lease cost and we add on the residual value, which is $7,500. And that comes out to be a cost to buy of $17,537. So if she ended up wanting to buy it at the end, she still has to pay an extra $7,500. Okay, that's the residual value. That's the value of the minivan at the end of the lease. So at this point, you might be wondering, well, okay, so what would be some situations where you might want to lease? What would be some situations where you want to just buy a car, either buy a new or buy a used car? So I'm actually going to, I wasn't going to do this for a couple days, but we'll go ahead and we'll look at this checklist right here. Okay, so this checklist, let me just make sure that you can see that properly. Sorry about that. Okay, so this checklist, or this little guide can show you, should you buy a car or should you lease a car under different circumstances. Buying a car is good in some circumstances, leasing a car is good in some circumstances. Now, if you were my dad would just say it's never really smart to lease a car, okay? You would probably be better off by just buying a car, all right, buying a used car. So, let's go through the checklist. What should you choose, buy or lease, okay? And again, this is a personal decision. Financially, it probably makes a little bit more sense to buy used as opposed to leasing a new car, so that you are probably paying a little bit less, and the car is actually yours, you have ownership of it, but every person's different. So so these are statements, and depending on the statement, you can say whether it's a better idea to buy or lease. Statement number 1, I always drive over 15,000 miles a year. Remember, leases can have mileage charges on them, and you don't really want to incur a mileage charge if you're going over the limit. And that limit, remember, that one problem was 12,000 miles, which means if you're driving over 12,000 miles, you're paying even more money for your lease than you really have to. So if you're driving a lot, it makes a lot more sense to buy a car. I like to customize my car by tinting windows. This is the next one. By tinting windows, adding pinstripes, sound system, etc. Well, you really can't do that if that's a lease. Okay, if you like to customize your car, make it look cool, make it look how you want, you really can't do that to a lease because you don't own the car. Okay, the company owns the car. They wouldn't be very happy if you started making modifications to it. So if you like to customize the car, that's another situation where buying would be a good idea. Number 3, I usually get emotionally attached to my car. Some people really form a bond with their car. If you're one of those people, at the end of a lease, you have to give it up, or you have to pay even more money to outright buy it. So if you get emotionally attached, wouldn't it just be better to buy the car itself and outright in the first place? Yes, it would. Number 4, I love to see those payments dwindle to nothing. Talking about making car payments. If you're making a payment, if you buy a used or new car and you enjoy eventually having it all paid off, that would be something where you would want to buy the car because a lease payment's never going to go down. The lease, you're always going to have to pay that lease as long as you're leasing it. So that's another instance where eventually, with buying a car, you don't have to pay anything for it anymore. A lease, you're always going to have to pay for it as long as you have that car. Number 5, I've got to have that new car smell. Well, it doesn't really make sense to buy cars, every year unless you're absolutely loaded. It doesn't make sense to buy that many cars, okay? that would be very expensive for you, not very good, because you would be always losing money on your investment. What you could do, if this is really an issue for you, is you could end up leasing a car, okay? You get a lease every year, you always get something that's fairly new. That might be a situation where you want to lease the car. I like the security of driving a car under warranty. If you lease a car, because those tend to be newer cars, you can always have it be under warranty. If you really like that, then, leasing might be a good option for you. I like to drive a fancier car than I can afford. This is pretty self-explanatory. You should lease a really fancy car then. I want to install my Dr. Dre audio system. This goes with the second one. I want to customize my car. Again, this would be something you can't really do with a lease. You'd have to do that after you buy a car. I'm willing to trade ownership for low monthly payments. That's literally the definition of a lease. Making low monthly payments, but you don't own the car. My company reimburses me for car expenses. If your company's reimbursing you for a car, just go ahead and buy a car, okay? Buy a nice car. Company's paying for it. You might as well buy it and have ownership of it. Okay? Usually people lease when they want to drive something that's a little bit more expensive, or if they're not really sure what kind of car they want. But if the company's going to reimburse you for it, go ahead and buy the car. I like to do my own repair work. You want to buy the car in that case. With a lease, you usually take they ask you to take the car in if it needs repair work. You can't really fix it, modify it, do anything yourself. If you buy a car, you don't have that problem. Last one, I typically drive less than 12,000 miles per year. If this is the case, you might want to think about leasing because, well, I'm a little conflicted on this one. I think leasing is probably, what they're going for here. But if you drive not a lot of miles anyways, why even think about getting a car? But if you're driving less than 12,000 miles a year, you can stay under the mileage charge. That might be a sign that maybe it's a good idea to lease this car. So, those are some options for you to think about when you're thinking about, should I buy, should I lease? We've actually only got one more set of notes left in this unit, so we'll get to those next time. And if you have any questions, please let me know. See you later.